Meze Audio, known for its unique headphones and European heritage, has consistently released products that have been well received by the typical audiophile. This company has in the past delved into the IEM market, but with the constant barrage of hi-fi competitors, you would be forgiven if you had forgotten. Now, Meze has released their newest IEM, which they call the Alba. It's priced at $159. Let's take a closer look and figure out what it has to offer. Meze says that the Alba is named after the Romanian word meaning the first light. The company promises a neutral sound signature with, quote, a touch of warmth for a complete and immersive listening experience. The Alba is so new that I cannot, as of the date of writing this script, find the Meze website page dedicated to it. All I have is the introductory PDF Meze sent me a few months ago when I got early access to this IEM. So, information is going to be very limited. This IEM is scheduled for release on June 20th, 2024, and I expect the website will be updated at that point. What I can tell you is that the Alba has Meze's impeccable design and build quality. It is truly a sight to behold. This IEM is built from alloys and aluminum and has a distinctive style and a color that swims somewhere between white and gray. The Alba is fairly light, and lighter than the Moondrop Starfield and Aria, lighter than the Campfire Audio Andromeda, and a tad weightier than the typical plastic-built IEM. The center of the Alba's housing seems to be a pasteboard. This IEM is smooth to the touch and takes a more or less familiar contoured shape that we've become accustomed to from the litany of other IEMs in the market. The Alba comes with a matching hardshell case, several silicone ear tips, and a braided cable. Oh, and one more thing. Meze Audio decided to include a USB-C to 3.5mm DAC amp adapter. Meze did not provide me any information about this adapter, but just like with all their other products, this adapter is incredibly well made and seems perfectly capable of doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, at first I thought that this adapter was simply a hi-fi product rebranded for Meze. It still might be. But the thing that makes me doubt that this is a rebranded off-the-shelf adapter are a few details I discovered after plugging in the adapter. First, the adapter shows up as the Meze DAC in my audio output list. And second, this adapter has an LED. When you plug it in, the LED will illuminate both the USB-C male side and the section where the cable enters into the adapter's housing. And, of course, this LED is gentle white, just like the Alba. Now that is some very creative and respectable attention to detail. Well done, Meze. Meze also sent me a separate 4.4mm balanced cable to try out with the Alba. It's practically the same construction as the stock cable. The balance cable is not included and is a separate purchase. The Alba is hands down one of the most comfortable IEMs I have ever had the pleasure of using. It does not cause any noticeable pressure in my ear canals, and even after wearing them for several hours, I didn't feel the same sense of fatigue I usually do with the vast majority of other IEMs and ear tips. Silicone ear tips, especially stock ear tips, usually are not the most comfortable for me, and yet these ear tips feel thicker, yet still quite pliable, which really does go a long way to helping relieve any long-term discomfort. All things considered, the Alba is a beautiful IEM. It has excellent build, good accessories, and a bonus adapter that shoots the value proposition higher up the ladder. You may not want to use the adapter that they included, but if you're new to the hobby or want to try something else, well, there you go. So far, this is an excellent start. I tested the Alba for over 1 month as one of my go-to IEMs. I paired it with its included adapter as well as with my EcoZerta ITM03, Low 2PAW S1, Low 2PAW 6000, Matrix Mini I Pro 3, and directly into audio jacks of those devices that still have them. I listened to my standard lossless FLAC test playlist, streamed lossless music on Amazon Music HD, lossy content on Spotify and YouTube, and consumed a wide variety of other material, including movies and TV shows. I conducted A/B comparisons against the Moondrop Starfield and Aria, as well as against the Campfire Audio Andromeda. I also compared the Alba's adapter against the other DACs I just mentioned earlier. I conducted my normal A/B testing using value-matched parameters. As far as I can tell, the Alba's adapter does not have any different sound signature from the rest of the competition. In other words, it's neutral and it's transparent. The Alba's bass is clearly rolled off in sub-bass. Transience is rather quick. It reminds me a lot of how fast the typical planar driver sounds in this respect. Reverberation of sub-bass elements is quick, barely interacting with the other elements in a mix. In Mountains by Hans Zimmer, there's a rumble from the beginning of the track. The Alba definitely let me hear that rumble from the start, but the experience was vastly different from what I heard on the Moondrop Quarks, which are the most neutral IEMs I currently own. The Aria and Starfield both presented more of that sub-bass rumble. The Andromeda actually had a similar presentation as the Alba, rolled off, quick transients, minimal interaction with mid-bass. However, unlike with the Alba, the Andromeda struggled to recreate the sub-bass rumble even at high volumes. So, if we're talking about the spectrum, then the Andromeda would have the least amount of sub-bass presence, then comes the Alba, and then finally the Aria and the Starfield. Mid-bass is much closer to neutral on the Alba. Drum strikes are hard, but not piercing or harsh. The Aria and Starfield have a greater mid-bass emphasis. The overall experience is that these two IEMs have a noticeably greater bass emphasis with much less clarity than what the Alba provides. The Andromeda has a marginal mid-bass emphasis compared to the Alba and the Moondrop products. It's not nearly as pushed as on the Aria and Starfield, but there is a definite difference compared to the Alba. The mid sound marginally elevated, particularly in vocal sibilance and grain. Compared to the Quarks, the Alba has a 2 to 3 decibel emphasis to sibilance. The Andromeda, on the other hand, had a noticeably more neutral rendition. Those sibilance peaks were not present, and vocals generally sounded smoother, less piercing. The Andromeda rendered vocalists closer to the ears than the Alba. The Starfield and Aria also emphasized vocal sibilance and grain. I would have to say that the sibilance emphasis was very similar to the Alba's. The vocal grain push was, however, marginally more obvious on the Alba. Now, by no means does the Alba render vocalists with sibilance as harsh or piercing, at least not for me. But then again, I don't think I'm overly sensitive to that type of detail. If you are, then this may cause you some discomfort. In any regard, the Alba's mid-centric clarity is actually rather obvious compared to the other IEMs, including the Andromeda. The Alba is able to separate mid-elements. Vocals stand apart from instruments. Instruments are clearly delineated among themselves, and there's rarely any bleeding of tonalities among all these elements into each other. In other words, a drum comes out clearly, separate from guitars, which stand apart from vocals. Multiple vocalists in a track appear clearly. The Starfield, Aria, and Andromeda all have recessed mids in comparison to the Alba. Vocals tend to stand a step behind instruments on these three IEMs. Separation and clarity in the mids is present in all of the IEMs, but things tend to be bleeding together, unlike on the Alba. Treble on the Alba is close to neutral, but with a low to mid-treble emphasis. This push is not, in my terms, harsh, but it does seem to make itself known when compared against more neutral renditions such as with the Quarks. Brass and horns are crystal clear on the Alba without becoming harsh or piercing or fatiguing. Their scratchy, nasally signatures are patently obvious. In Scherzo for X-Wings, the entire orchestra sounded like it was almost in a semicircle in front of me. Group sets appeared either on the left or right, never bleeding their tonalities into muddiness. I even heard the slight emphasis of a horn in the middle of a track, a detail that usually eludes me on many other IEMs. In Flight from the City by Johan Johansson, the Alba very clearly rendered the piano, cello, violin, sparks and sizzles, pops and creaking. Everything sounded exceedingly clear, but not in a way that made me feel as if the IEM was artificially shoving details into my ears. The Andromeda's treble, by comparison, is smoother, less energetic, less, for the lack of better description, exciting. The Andromeda rendered such exquisitely gentle treble that even when I listened to very harsh recordings at high volumes, the Andromeda did not become uncomfortable while the Alba did. The Andromeda has a treble roll-off, possibly in the mid to upper treble region. The Aria and Starfield sound very similar to each other in treble. These both have a mid-treble emphasis and a marginal upper treble roll-off. Clarity in this region is patently more obvious on the Alba. As for detail retrieval, I never had trouble hearing major and minor details on the Alba. Creaking of wood, sharp intakes of breaths, multiple vocalists, a variety of orchestral group sets, pops and sizzles, electric buzzing effects, gravelly natures of voices. All this kind of stuff was easily audible. I would not characterize this IEM as a detail monster, but neither would I say it is your typical average IEM in this respect. In my new light footstep test, the Alba rendered 9 clear footsteps. The Quarks presented 5, the Starfield gave 6, the Aria rendered 7, and the Andromeda presented 10 clear footsteps. As for Soundstage, I found that the Alba's performance was surprisingly good, and it is a subjective standard, obviously. In my view, the Aria and Starfield have what I would consider average soundstage. The Blonde BL03 has below average soundstage. The Tin Hi-Fi T2 has wide soundstage. On this type of subjective spectrum, I place the Andromeda on the same line as the Aria and Starfield. They're about average in soundstage. The Alba is above average, wider than these other 3 IEMs I mentioned, but not as wide as the T2. I often get inundated with requests to review IEMs. I've done too many for my own liking because they just get repetitive after a while. Those reviewers who have made a living off of doing only IEM reviews have far more patience than I do. So when companies now ask me, I tell them no thanks, particularly not for cheap entry-level stuff that I suspect is pretty much a rehash of stuff that's already out there, and there's a ton out there in the market. But when Meze offered to let me review the Alba, well, I had to say yes. A company that releases so few products and only after a lengthy gestation period deserves a closer inspection. And I'm glad I did. The Alba has a somewhat unique sound signature. It's a dynamic driver, but with a bass roll-off, not significant, but present nonetheless. On the other hand, mid-bass is close to neutral. The bass has excellent detail and clarity and quick transients. The mids are slightly vocal forward and have a degree of sibilance emphasis, yet the mids remain clear and distinct. Vocals never sound harsh and instruments don't sound diluted of their timbre or presence. The Alba has a slightly energetic treble, which is tuned in a way that there's excellent clarity in this region, I feel. Without harshness or fatigue causing piercing sounds, the Alba renders treble cleanly and probably inoffensively for anyone who is not treble averse. The Alba has above average detail and above average soundstage. I think it's a very good tuning, as long as you know what you're in the market for. Combine this sound signature with the more objective aspects, and I think you've got a special product. The build quality is excellent and beyond reproach. The accessories are premium. The included dongle is a brilliant addition that most companies would charge probably around $100 for. In my mind, the Alba is without doubt a classy IEM, well worth the asking price of nearly $160. Maybe it took a while for Meze Audio to finalize the Alba, but they should be happy with the work they've done. It's a very good addition to an overly crowded market, and the Alba actually stands out.